Hello and welcome to Talking Good Game, and it's a match preview of Burnley against West Ham United, providing there's no COVID, providing there's no snow. The game is at 2 o'clock on Sunday, but as always, Gonzo, can we kick off with your thoughts on the Clarets, please?
One football app. You certainly can.
We'll do that later. What's your thoughts on Burnley?
Sorry. I was all eager. Look, Burnley. What can you say about Burnley that hasn't been said before? So basically, all the stuff that's been said before. Although this season is
good football.
A bit, yeah. It's funny one, Dyche. I want to say this actually. So a little while ago, Sean Dyche was doing a press conference and he turned around and he said, I'm bored with all of this. Can we discuss something else? You always come in here and ask the same questions. So he basically said, can we talk about looky-likeys? And it's, people, you go into a restaurant, you think, oh, look at him. He looks like Gordon Ramsay. Oh, look at him. You know what I mean? He looks like whatever. He looks like Winston Churchill, that bloke. He said, that's better than just talking. So anyway, he got all the journalists. They were all doing it. They had a lovely thing. It was on Sky. I don't know if you saw it. The other day, he was doing an interview, right? And basically, he walked out and it was snowing in Burnley, and he walked out in his shirt, in a short sleeved shirt, and did a little bit. And he walked to the press conference. They said, so Sean, the same group of journalists, I think. So Sean, I've got to talk about your shirt, mate. Your shirt. He said, can we just talk about the football, please? You don't know where you stand with Dyche. You don't know where you stand. They thought they were going to have a bit of banter. Oh, sorry. No, and honestly, he got the right ump. They were discussing something other than football. So I don't think he's not as happy as last season. And you can understand why, Geo, because it's not really going well for him. I still think he's a magnificent manager, by the way, and I still think he would do a really good job at other clubs. I think the reason Watford are where they are, and I know they've been a bit yo-yo, but I really feel that he gave Watford the impetus to set them on their way. I think what he's done at Burnley's been really, really good, but he's suffering. He's suffering from a lack of goals and a goal scorer, and I think it's sort of killing him a little bit. That being said, I don't think it'll take much to get them back on track again. They've got some good players there, but he's having to deal with players running their contracts down and all sorts. New owners came in, Geo, and I think a bit of money was promised and it's not really happened. I don't think it's the easiest job in the world. I think he's a very good manager.
Yeah, well, money's happened Burnley style. In terms of Burnley standards, money has happened. They spent nearly 30 million in the summer. The problem is we haven't really seen Roberts at right back. The centre back Collins, the centre back they signed from Stoke, he's been limited as well because of the two centre backs ahead of him. But the one player that stood out is obviously Cornet. We'll get on to him in a minute. That's the most unlike Burnley signing I've ever seen Burnley make. But it seemed like the same thing again. Do you know, like you don't get them anymore. Remember, you used to get like season review DVDs. I reckon you watch the Burnley ones, by that one season and done well and got into Europa League. I reckon they're all the same. We're almost in a relegation battle and they get out of it. They're comfortable by May. They finish 15. I reckon every season's the same storyline. The script is pretty much the same. They just have to change slightly different positions and oppositions and stuff like that. Yeah. But there's always there's always one guy that scores majority of the goals. It used to be Ashley Barnes and it's now Chris Wood kind of thing. They've always had really good centre backs. They've always had a good goalkeeper, Heaton, Pope, whatever. They've always had the same things again, and the Sean Dyche blueprint just remains the same. And you sort of get it because it's worked to this point. He's kept them in the Premier League and stuff. But I always just wonder that, like, Burnley fans can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but if I was a Burnley fan, I would just want a bit more at some point. If you're going to play that football, which at times it's not as bad as people make on. I know they're a bit of the joke of the Premier League at times when they talk about boring football. They'll use Burnley is a prime example. They used to use West Ham as an example for seasons as well. And I don't think it's as bad as that, but it's certainly not Brighton. It's certainly not free-flowing, entertaining football all the time. It is that nitty-gritty, hard-working style, which is efficient, I guess, is the way of describing the way that Sean Dyche plays. But if you're going to play like that, I think I'd want more than just battling relegation every season. It just feels like they're doing that constantly. Every season, it's sort of like the fifth favourites for the drop every single year. And teams that keep coming close to the drop eventually fall through the trapdoor, Gonzo. Do you think, they're currently in the bottom three, Burnley, and the teams that look dead and buried in the Premier League, all of a sudden, they've got their tails up a little bit. They're collating some points, like some Norwich and Watford, they're putting some wins together. Do you think this is bad for Burnley? Do you think they'll get relegated, or do you think Dyche will keep them in the Premier League for another season?
It's tough when you look at the teams above them and the one below them, immediately below them, who actually just beat them in their last game, by the way. I'm being all cryptic there. It's Newcastle, just in case you don't know. Can they get Watford? Yes. I think Southampton are going down this season, by the way. So I think they can stay up, but the trouble is anybody above that has the capacity to do well. So you look at Leeds. Leeds can do better. Crystal Palace, well, they started well and they were in a bit of a slump, but they could improve. You would think they'll get better. Are Brentford going to drop off? Well, they got a goal scorer. That's hard. Then above that, you're into the likes of Everton, Leicester, Aston Villa. It just ain't going to happen. I think they can. I think they can survive, though. I really do, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's Norwich, Watford, and Southampton are the three that get relegated. But it ain't easy. It ain't going to be easy for him, Gio. That's for sure. He's going to have to shake things up a little bit. And also, I feel there's a tiredness to what they do. Sometimes bringing Jay Rodriguez back, even though he'd been decimated by injury. I mean, the original version of Jay Rodriguez was a really good player, got into the England squad and whatnot, but the injury prone one, or the one that's come back from injury, is not the same player. And then you think, I remember them signing Aaron Lennon. What are you doing? Yeah, there's a weird thing going on, and you can tell us all about Cornet, far more about him than I do, but they might need to shake things up just a little bit. There's a reliance on Wood as well, I do feel, with this team.
Yeah, I think I agree with you to some extent with what you're saying, because when you just named your bottom three there, what you've done is you've included what people would consider an established Premier League club in Southampton there, and I agree with that aspect. I think one of them's going. I think someone that is a bit of a surprise is going to go in. And I do wonder if it's Burnley. Part of me thinks it won't be, because Dyche gets them out of it every single season. Dyche gets out of it, does a really good job and keeps them up, kind of thing. But part of me also does think that it's a bit like teams like Stoke, that they just hover above the relegation zone for too long, and eventually they just go. And I do wonder if it's going to be Burnley's turn this time round, because at times it feels a little bit stale with Dyche. At times it's felt like he's not too happy at Burnley. He lets the contract situation rumble on for far too long, and he's not too bothered about there being noise about it. So when journalists are saying you're going to sign a new deal, he doesn't often shut them down and say, yes, I am. He's sort of like, you can keep talking about it for a little bit longer, kind of thing. And it always just feels like it's coming. It feels inevitable. And I had a look at what Dyche said in his press conference ahead of this game to find out if Ben Mee and Cornet is fit, which I don't know. He didn't give too much away, but he spoke about the January transfer window. And I was thinking, this will be interesting to hear about, because what's he going to do? Because they need to spend money. Very reserved, very much like he is every season. Burnley tend not to buy in January because Dyche always, as he always says, that it's hard to find value out there. And it is hard to find value out there, but when you're in the bottom three, I think you've got to find some somewhere, because Newcastle, the only team below you, they're going to be going out there to try and find some. I think Watford have got a little bit of bollocks about them, to be honest with you. They're fighting for it, Watford, and while I think Norwich will go, they're putting up a fight as well. And it's difficult. It's a very competitive mini league at the bottom of the league this season. And Burnley bloody better make sure they get out of it, or they could be in the Championship next season. But anyway, ahead of Sunday, if you want to know if Ben Mee and Cornet are fit on Sunday, Gonzo, where's the best
One
place
football
to find out? If you want to know who's below Burnley in the Premier League, where's the best place to find out, Gonzo? What's free to download, Gonzo?
Is it the One Football app?
It is the One Football app. James Tarkowski, will he sign a new deal? Will he not? If you want to keep up with the latest going on over at Burnley, Gonzo, what's the best app for them to download?
The One Football app.
West Ham need a new striker in the January transfer window. You want to keep up with the latest rumours? Gonzo, where will we find out?
Sky Sports News. No, sorry, the One Football app.
And the link to what is in the description and completely free to download, Gonzo?
The One Football app. Down there.
You go. Get it downloaded to your phones right now, ladies and gentlemen. Links in the description. Even if you're a Burnley fan or a West Ham fan, click who your favourite, consolidates everything you need to know in one feed for you.
One Football app.
Yes, the One Football app. Anyway, players you admire. I've got another question about Burnley, but players you admire first.
Tempted to say the One Football app, but I'm going to go with, I really like McNeil. He's a good player. I would like him at West Ham. I feel, actually, no, it's a bit insulting. I'm not going to say that. But I feel we might be better off That's just the same thing, but said a different way. I was going to say, I think you might be better off at a different club. That's still an insult, really, isn't it? No offence, as they say. I really like McNeil. I think he's a very, very good player. Other ones that I admire. Woods is a pain in the arse. Actually, Brownhole's even more of a pain in the ass, actually. He was really good against us last time we played. I think it was him. He had a really good game. I'm sorry. A really, really good game. One football app. Not many. Geo, not many. They don't have very many good players, really. But there's a couple that are good. Obviously, Tarkowski's. I'm a bit disappointed with him, actually. He should. I think I would have, if I was Dyche, I would have expected a little bit. I know he's had a little bit of time out and that, but I think the last year and a half, he really should have been demonstrating he was the main man, and he's been a million miles. He was in the England team, and he's sort of just dropped off massively since then. But I feel, and I don't. You're going to tell us about Old Cornet in a minute. But I feel when was it Barnes? Was Ashley Barnes, wasn't it? Was that right? He was always seemed to be quite near to Wood, and they formed a really decent partnership, and you always felt that they had a threat there. So I think you still need to do something to get a threat going, so as they can score the goals to keep up. You get they only conceded one against Newcastle, but not packed full of wonderful players, that's for sure.
I just want to apologise for Burnley fans for Gonzo pluralising Chris Wood. He does it all the time. He does it with Tammy Abraham as well. He just adds an S on the end just because he can. He decides to call him Woods. Abraham's. It's just a thing he does. But yeah, I agree with Gonzo about McNeil. He's a player I admire.
That's McNeil's.
McNeil's, yes, and Josh Brownhill as well as a very good centre midfielder. We've been linked with quite a lot of Burnley players actually in the last year or so. Chris Wood, Brownhill, Tarkowski, obviously we seem to get linked with a lot of them too. I do think Charlie Taylor is one of the most underappreciated left backs in the league. I'm not saying he's one of the best left backs. He's consistently decent.
I don't appreciate him.
Yeah, no, you don't. Or you would have said that you admire him, but you clearly don't. I think he's a solid left back. I think defensively, good. Going forward, good. And I just don't think he gets the plaudits he deserves, actually, weirdly enough, Charlie Taylor. He sort of joined Burnley when he was sort of big potential when he was at Leeds. Everybody expected him to go on and do good things. Leeds fans were gutted to lose him. And I think he's going on to do that at Burnley. It's just, if he was at a club that wasn't Burnley, a bit more fashionable, he'd get a lot more plaudits than what he currently does, really. As in Cornet as well, signed him in the summer from Lyon. And it was a bit of a strange thing because he sort of plays to the left of Lyon. You thought, well, what's Dyche going to do here? Because he's got McNeil. He's got Goodmanson on the other side, who's naturally left-footed as well. That you can't take McNeil out of the team. So where are you going to play him? So he's sort of playing up front along with Chris Wood. He's trying to get that partnership going. And they've looked good together, actually. They do look really, really good. The traditional big guy, little guy, skillful, fast. I'm surprised Burnley went and got him. He just didn't seem like a Burnley signing, but Dyche has done well with him so far. And this is going to sound like a real backhanded compliment, but I hope Burnley fans take it the right way. But when you have a team of grafters, when you do have 10 players that work really hard and stick to a rigid formation and stuff, and you've got one player that is a little bit of a dynamite, I think you can get away with that. You can almost build a team around getting the best out of him in that number 10 position. Anyway, might not be fit for Sunday, which is good news for West Ham. Same with Ben Mee. Them two are in doubt. But Tarkowski, would you like him at West Ham? Linked with him plenty. Contract's still running down at Burnley. We'll be linked with him pretty much every second day between now and January.
Yes, under the right circumstances. For free, yes, available on a free. If we get him, fine. But I tell you something now. I don't think Burnley should, whatever they're offered, I don't think they should take it because the money that they will get. And in fact, there's another example. I've already mentioned this club, which is Southampton, already in this video. Whatever the value they thought they were getting for Danny Ings, it ain't going to be worth it if they go down. Quite frankly, they might as well have let him walk away on a free and then collected the 170 million for another year in the Premier League. So people are going to come in and say about Tarkowski, look, his contract's expiring, his 7 million, his 8 million, his 9 million. It just ain't worth it. Keep him there and stay in the Premier League. Then go and actually buy yourself a really good centre half. So, but yeah, look, on a free at the end of the season, if Moyes rates him, if Moyes sees him, that would be the partnership, Zuma and Tarkowski. Who am I to argue? Yeah, why not?
Completely agree. Right, let's talk about West Ham. Obviously, we'll both pick Fabianski in goal, but earlier this week, Fabianski was absent from training, although we've not heard anything about him, so we're just going to assume he remains fit for the game on Sunday. Back 4 or back 5 for this Gonzo. We played with a back 3 against Chelsea, done well, got the win. Obviously, some injury doubts, or would it depend on if Creswell is fit or not to you?
Well, I'm assuming Cresswell is fit, so I'm playing a back 4 for this one.
If he isn't fit, would that change your mind?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting one football app.
You're better with Burnley than you are with West Ham.
I have. Yeah, no. If Cresswell's is out, then then maybe I would shift it around a bit. But I'm going to assume he's in, so I will play the back 4, which will obviously be Soufal, Dawson, Diop, and Cresswellovic at left back.
Yeah, I agree. If Creswell was absent for Sunday, because there is doubts whether he's fit or not, would you be brave enough to bring in Longello? Obviously, the under 23, impressed against Zagreb on Thursday. Has any of them done enough to get into the first 11 on Sunday, or is it too much too soon for them?
Not the first 11, but I would have him. I would have him on the bench certainly, and I'm less bothered by Masuaku at wing back. By the way, as I think is, so if he played 5 at the back, obviously if he's going to put the 4, I'd have Longello in at left back before I'd have Masuaku. Wing back, I'd play Masuaku in. It depends what he's doing.
Vicen, Souček continuing as usual in midfield?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the rest of the team pretty much picks itself, I think. Actually, maybe it doesn't for some people. Would be Bowen, Lanzini, certainly, and Benrahma would be my 3 behind Antonio.
Yeah, that Benrahma one, I've sort of gone for the same as well. I think Bowen and Lanzini picked themselves off the back of the performance last weekend. And then it becomes a bit of probably a two-horse race really between Fornals and Benrahma as to who he puts in. Vlasic should be in the conversation, but I don't think he is just yet. So I think it is between Said and Pablo. But obviously, if Moyes was to go with a back 3, Benrahma won't start. It'll be Lanzini, Bowen behind Antonio again, Masuaku left wing back kind of thing. But I would go with Benrahma for this one too. But if it was Fornals ahead of Benrahma, I wouldn't be too bothered. I don't think there's much in between them. And that's not a good thing. I think it's because they're both out of form. I'm not that arsed about who plays rather than feeling they're both in such good form. I'm happy to see either of them. It's not the good way of looking at it, if you know what I mean.
No, it's not, because you're not picking from a position of strength. You're not picking because people are excelling. You're just saying who's least crap, basically. So yeah, I get that. But it is an interesting dynamic in terms of what he's going to do. But if he does play the 5 at the back or the 3 at the back, whatever you call it, that does have to be the 2, Lanzini, Bowen. And I actually think had he, I'm not disappointed he didn't. He had to do what he did in the European game with the youngsters. Good on him. But we said this in the Patreon video. If he had played Bowen and he had played Lanzini, you would have seen a different result in that game. Actually, I think they're the form players for us at the moment. And I do wonder if Mikel Antonio is about to come back into form, because actually he did create some chances in that game, which is, and the longer that game went on, I'm talking about the game against Chelsea, obviously. The Bowen one was very close to being a goal, and he started in the second half, started to make a nuisance of himself. So I just wonder if we're seeing the first sparkle of him coming back into form.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I thought he had a hand in all 3 goals against Chelsea, actually. The first one, all he does is pressure the centre-back, but it's that forces him to play it back to Mendy, which obviously Bowen goes in the next. The second one, he makes a run for Souček to try and find him. Souček doesn't find him. Thiago Silva defends it well. But what he has done, he's created a yard or 2 for Jared Bowen to be in and get the shot off and get the goal. Then obviously the third one, he's the one that reacts quickly. The ball boy reacted really quickly, threw it to Masuaku. Antonio reacted really quickly, saying, give it to him, and headed it back to Masuaku and said, there you go. He was just quick, and thought he played well in the second half against Chelsea. So I agree with you. I'm looking forward to seeing Antonio on Sunday. especially if Ben Mee's out as well. I do think there's a big opportunity there if Ben Mee's missing for this game. What do you think Moyes will do? I don't often ask you this, but what do you think Moyes is going to do on Sunday? Because it feels like for the first time this season in the Premier League, it's hard to predict because of the injuries to Kurt Zouma, because of the doubts over Aaron Creswell, and because of the win against Chelsea last weekend using a back three. I think it's actually quite difficult to gauge what David Moyes is going to do for this fixture.
Well, I think David Moyes will revert to four at the back. I mean, four at the back. Chelsea and Burnley are two very different clubs, as you can tell from a name. One of them's called Chelsea, one's called Burnley. One of them plays something like this. Well, in fact, look at us. Look at us. You're dressed as Chelsea. I'm dressed as Burnley. You wouldn't even think it's a West Ham podcast, would you? Or whatever it is, YouTube thingy. No, I think he'll go four at the back, Gio. I really do. I think he'll go four at the back because I do think it sort of blunts our counter-attacking games slightly. And I think we have to go for it against Burnley. I also think we're pretty damn good away from home, actually, as well. So I suspect he'll go four.
I've got a feeling he might stick with the three at the back thing because, yes, Chelsea and Burnley differently, but during that Chelsea game, we lost Kurt Zouma. And I do think that is such a big loss. The question is, does Moyes have the problem with playing Burnley is Burnley will play with two strikers. We know Burnley's formation is 4-4-2. Ruud will be up front. We don't know who will be partnering him. Cornet, if he's fit, if not, it'll probably be Vidra. So, but does David Moyes have faith in Dawson and Diop going toe-to-toe with two Burnley strikers? I'm not sure he will. I think he'll want to have the extra centre-back in there. And a bit like the Chelsea game, if you don't have confidence in the front half of your team outscoring the opposition, then you've got to make sure your back half concede less than the opposition. And I think that's what we might see on Sunday. I think we might see a sort of clean sheet first priority because we are coming up against one of the you might still have the league table there. I would take a bet that Burnley are the lowest goal scorers in the league, and if they're not, they won't be far off it. So I think Moyes' confidence in keeping a clean sheet against Burnley would be quite high, especially if we have the extra defender in there helping out Dawson Diop.
Let's say they're equal, second worst.
So I think Moyes would be quite confident that we can keep a clean sheet in Turk and we're playing three at the back, especially if Creswell's fit to some extent, because then it means he's still going forward. Creswell bombs on anyway. It's almost like a back four when we're in possession and we go forward. So it'll be interesting to see. Bit of a big game for West Ham, Gonzo, with all the injuries. It's sort of like it feels like the next three fixtures are not make or break, but very much going to size up how we go about business in January transfer when you almost set the tone for the aim come the end of the season.
Yeah, back-to-back victories in the Premier League if we win this as well, which is really important if we're chasing this, particularly with what's going on at Tottenham at the moment as well. That you almost want to keep winning these. Well, you want to keep winning these games anyway, but you almost want to keep winning these games. So actually, even if they've got games in hand and things get cancelled, that actually they look up and they think, oh, crikey, we've got all the games in hand, but blimey, that's a big old gap in it, So,
Norwich as well. Norwich have currently got a couple of doubts. They've got a couple of players ill. Dean Smith has said they're ill, done testing, waiting on the results. We play Norwich
18th
next weekend. So if those players need to isolate, they won't be available for next weekend against West Ham either.
Yeah, which makes it as a different subject, but which makes it really important how West Ham deal with this and isolate their players and all the rest of it. It's a big game, mate. It is a really, really big game, actually. It's one we should win. We ought to win because of the disparity in the placings in the table. We're up the top, they're down the bottom. But I just want to I do want to say, by the way, I should say this. I'd take the mickey out of some of the players' names and everything like that, but I do want Burnley to stay up. I like Dyche and I like Burnley. They're one of the clubs I do like. I think it's important for football that there's room for clubs like Burnley to do well. Particularly, it's so hotly contested that the northwest there. It's so many clubs. It's like London. It really is. It's in close proximity. It's really hard for the fans. Obviously two Manchester clubs, and you've got Bolton, you've got Oldham, you've got Stockport, you've got Burnley. There's so many in close proximity. It's important that they do well up there, and I like Burnley. So, but important game, yes.
Yeah, I agree with you about the Burnley factor for different reasons. I think I wanted Crystal Palace to stay up this season. as a reward for trying to buy young players, play good football, and take in Patrick Vieira, a bit of an experienced manager. I want to see him rewarded for not going down the old British manager route. I want to see Burnley survive and stay up as a reward for spending within their means. They've been the most sensible club financially. And if teams come up and see a team going down that spends sensibly, they're almost going to think, well, that means you've got to spend money to stay in this league kind of thing. And I think it encourages the wrong thing in the transfer market going forward for teams that's leapfrogging them should they go down. I think this is a big game for West Ham. I think it's a big game for David Moyes, really. I think this is a test, one of his biggest tests this season. What you're going to do, you've got your two first choice centre-backs missing, you possibly got your left back missing, you've got your striker that's only scored 2 goals since September, 3-4 months now. He's only scored 2 goals. What are you going to do? How are you going to beat them? His press conference has been very encouraging. Moyes, he said he's going to go to Turf Moor with no fear. It's the right attitude to have. And I think this is a bit of a must-win game, really, given what our aspirations are for this season. That's from the manager, not just me and Gonzo. But the next 3 fixtures, Gonzo, including this one, Burnley, Arsenal away midweek, Norwich at home. So 3 games in 7 days. What points tally should we be aiming for, do you think?
7, but we've got to try and get 9.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think 6 is good if you want to finish top 7. I think 6 points is a good haul. You want to try and squeeze into that top 4. I think 7 is a minimum, ideally 9 as well. Are you confident for this one?
Yeah, I am. I mean, see, the thing is that you get 9 points there, Geo, and then you've got another game before Christmas. Basically, here's the trick. I know relegation is a factor, but basically, can you be mathematically safe from relegation by Christmas Day? And if you can do that, then it's really then hard to have such a drop off that you won't contest those European positions. So you can do a lot of damage to a lot of clubs here. I don't mean sending Burnley down. I'm talking about to those other clubs, to Arsenal, to those other clubs where you just get this point and you get close to that 40 points mark, where actually you think, well, that's 40 points already on the board. Can we then get 65 as a springboard from there? It becomes a lot easier. So, but I am confident. In this one, certainly.
Why?
Because I think we're a really good team. I don't think our success over the last 2 years is based upon Kurt Zouma, and I really like Kurt Zouma. I think he'd be a really good player for West Ham. He's a fan favourite, and he's been a really, really good acquisition. But I think largely our success has been based on more or less the players that will be on that pitch. And the players that are on that pitch, I think Cresswell will be back. I think Dawson Diop, a hell of a centre-back partnership. I think Soufal is one of the best last season. I thought he was one of the best right-backs in the whole league. I think Rice and Souček are arguably the best midfield partnership in the league. I think Bowen is literally on fire, and he's doing something else as well. I think Lanzini
downloading the One Football app.
Absolutely. Bowen's on fire, and he's downloading the One Football app, as they sing. And Lanzini's in wonderful form, and someone else will play as well. And then Antonio, I feel, is just coming back to form as well. So a lot of reasons to be confident. And if that doesn't get you confident, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I'm really confident as well, actually, going into this one, because while, like I said, Fornals and Ben Rama are sort of out of form at the minute, arguably they're the only ones in the starting 11 that are out of form. Everybody else isn't. The keeper's playing well. Fabianski's doing well. Soufal's come back from injury, looks really good. Offensively, looks fantastic. Cresswell's been really good this season. The centre midfielders, Bowen, Lanzini, Antonio, while he's had a poor run of form, he looked good in the second half against Chelsea. We know he can be effective. We've got options on the bench there to use as well. So I'm feeling good. The only thing that worries me, there's sort of 2 things, but there's a correlation between the 2 things. And that is our centre-back pairing of Dawson and Diop. I still don't think it's been tested enough. I think Europa League was easy. Like I said, the advantage is they've been able to build up a understanding and a partnership. But I don't think... It doesn't feel me. I'm not any more confident that they're going to cope against the likes of Burnley, Arsenal, and Norwich than it was prior to the Europa League campaign starting, if that makes sense. I still think they're good centre-backs as a pairing. I'll wait and see. I remember them away to Genk in the Europa League. Them 2 got ripped apart by the Genk strikers in the first half. Them 2, they were poor. So that makes me wary. And I just think the Burnley attack is actually a big test for them, actually. I'd rather we were playing Norwich this Sunday and Burnley next week so we could just have a little look at them. I think Chris Wood will be rubbing his hands, possibly. Not against Dawson, but we play back three. Chris Wood's the one player, him and Troy Deeney are the two players that I've seen expose our back three. Whenever we play back three, Cresswell's our left centre back. Chris Wood and Troy Deeney, whenever we get the ball wide, they go for Cresswell. They go straight down Cresswell, saying, put me in the air against this guy. I've got him on toast. And he does. Chris Wood does have... there's nothing Cresswell can do. He jumps. He's just too small. Chris Wood's a big lump. That's my only concern, but that doesn't deter me from being confident ahead of this game. So any final words from yourself, Gonzo? More importantly, your score prediction.
No, I think you make a good point about Chris Woods because he'll certainly cause the defenders a few problems. And he always plays well against us, of course. Start fast, start confident. We've got lots of reasons to be confident. We've rested really well in the European game. 3-1. Yeah, 3-1 to West Ham, obviously, yeah.
This fixture last season was probably my favourite fixture. We played beautiful football, but we had Jesse Lingard. However, we didn't have Declan Rice. The reason I remember that is because Declan Rice joined me and Gonzo on the video after the game.
Yes, he did.
That game, we were, to use Gonzo's phrase, we played swashbuckling, attacking football that day. Yeah. It was thoroughly enjoyable. I don't think we're going to see that West Ham again, though. And in terms of hard work and effort, Burnley will match us. Sometimes we can bully teams by just running a bit more and working a bit harder than them. I'm not sure you can do that against Burnley. I think that's the one team we might come stuck against. However, we are a better team than them. We have better players. We're better at football than what Burnley are. I'm going to say Burnley 0, West Ham 1. I think we're going to do a Burnley score to Burnley. Anyway, if you enjoyed this preview, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel. 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday, which means at 12:55, we will be live with our build-up show. So if you not go to the game on Sunday, come along. Come over here at 12:55, and we'll see you then. That's enough from me and Gonzo. Catch you in a bit.
One football app.